an integration within yourself. And this integration begins with one basic conviction, that the universe is right. The things that happen because they must happen. And they must happen because the law of cause and effect is immutable. And yet this law never was and never will be a tyrant. The law is not something that is punishing you unjustly or taking away from you things you deserve. The law of cause and effect is reminding you whatever that you want in life that is worthwhile, you have to deserve. You have to earn happiness. You have to earn security, not in the terms of a business venture, but in terms of internal acceptance of value. We all come into this world with nothing. We even have a body that for a long time isn't much help to us. We live a while, 80 years perhaps if we're lucky, and then we leave this world. And we leave it with nothing at all, except what we have developed within our own consciousness. If there's anything that survives, it's the soul and the inner life enriched by good works and by understanding and insight.
Everybody who fails to do something with life comes back without the qualities and conditions he should have developed. So regardless of whether there's a future in it or not, we have a perfect right to use what we call time as usefully and helpfully as possible. And it should be a happy use. Nature never made it necessary to make misery the basis of growth. It is human beings who make so much trouble that their misery forces growth upon them. But growth can be achieved gloriously and happily and helpfully. It can be a vicarious process or it can be a conscious process. But whatever it is the opportunity to be a little more tomorrow than we are today in essential values. Better friends, better families, better loved ones, better children.
The individual, therefore, can reach a point in which he can live from day to day, observing, reflecting, thinking, feeling, studying, doing everything he possibly can to understand the reason for the situations as they are now. And if he becomes more and more concerned in finding reasons, he will gradually rescue his mental and emotional complex from futility, from the belief that everything is wrong, that there's no solution to anything, and that he was born simply to suffer and die. He does not have to have these negative thoughts. What he has to do, instead of giving up in despair, is accepting the challenge of personal change. He must make certain adjustments in himself. Namely, that nutrition is a very important factor in life, that it cannot be ignored, that the individual who wishes to have better health must concentrate his attention upon learning how to have better health. He must study the problems of nutrition in himself. He must discover his own mistakes due to appetites. He must discover why he cannot do just what he pleases and at the same time maintain bodily health. So here we'll come face to face with facts, and we're gradually beginning to face them with more or less conscious intelligence. Now, our mental life is also in constant need of nutritional education. What we take into the mind as a phase of our nutritional problem. If we take in the wrong thoughts, we're going to be just as bad off mentally and physically as we would be if we eat food that is improper to our needs. The individual can be allergic to attitudes, and everyone, more or less, is allergic to negative thinking. It will never help him, and it will almost certainly hurt him. Now, this doesn't mean he won't live through it. He may have negative thoughts all his life and pass the century mark, but he will simply have extended the period of disappointments, disillusionments, and disasters for himself.
In need of a major change in our entire system of nutrition. We have to eat to live and not live to eat. We have to do something worthwhile with the food. What is the use of feeding an individual who is no good, either hungry or full? The time has come when food is part of the material necessary for growth. It is not simply a luxury. It is something that we must use in order to do something with life. To feed something that is doing nothing and going nowhere is not part of nature's plan.
Therefore, with nutrition, a very factual thing. The individual has a mental life that needs to be disciplined and needs to be subject to the laws of mental nutrition. He breaks these laws every day in front of his television, or he breaks them every day in the various activities which he considers essential. He takes in a constant stream of bad food. He takes in food that is not only indigestible, but in many cases it is hopelessly poisonous. He does the same thing mentally and physically. If he takes in contaminated mental food, he is going to be sick. And most of the mental conditions of our society lead to a problem of contaminated thinking. The nutritional factor with the body, of course, is almost entirely chemical. Nutrition has to do with getting the proper food to the body. This in itself is a rather complicated procedure because opinions on the subject of nutrition are numerous and diversified. Probably in the long run, most persons have to work it out by trial and error until they find what is good for them. But one thing is obvious, namely, that there are junk foods. And these junk foods are, for the most part, the kinds we like the best. We've had long experience in enjoying the pleasures of the dinner table. And we do not like to be frustrated into some kind of a diet that tastes as though we were living on new-mown hay most of the time. This requires control. But obviously, junk food is a problem with the body. And we have to gradually wake up to the importance of keeping it nourished properly. This is one of the uses that we have to make of our time allotments. If we wish to be as healthy as possible through the years of life, we must discipline ourselves in the controlling of physical appetites. Now, the next level above this, which we consider constantly, is the emotional life of the individual. The emotional life is the life of art, music, affection, friendship, and the more intimate and kindly relationships of life. The emotional life is fulfilled through the expression of various high moral and emotional qualities.